Ruben Amorim is learning a heck of a lot about these Manchester United players, and plenty of it isn't good. Amorim knows what his biggest job is. It's got nothing to do with tactics at all. It is resetting these players mentally and especially in games. They are so fallible to head losses and complete lapses of concentration. You just cannot consistently rely on them. Let's talk about it. Well, I think it's fair to say that Ruben Amorim was right when he said the storms are coming, because we saw it there literally with the storm in the UK, and metaphorically with what we saw against Nottingham Forest. A 3-2 defeat, and plenty of lessons learned. Lessons learned, defeat. Great. I'm going to run through what we can try and take away from it, because for me, that game highlighted what, in my opinion, is the single biggest job that Amorim has, and the job that no United manager has been able to do post-Fergie. And I'm going to focus on that as point number one. Ruben Amorim cannot trust these players, all right? Just like we as United fans haven't been able to trust these players for a long time. They're capable of great things and just woeful things. They are capable of losing their heads and then going and scoring three. They are capable of just massive moments where they completely lose concentration. And you just cannot build on top of that. It's impossible, right? Amorim speaking after the game. You remember when David Moyes said that? Things we need to improve on. Crosses, passing, blah, blah, blah. Amorim asked what he thinks United need to improve on a lot. Every situation of the game. When it comes to like in-game management, when it comes to just preparing for a game, these players mentally are just so unfit for purpose. And that is the toughest task. And actually, Amorim said that before the game. He goes, there's no point me talking about a formation or tactics, because relatively that's quite simple for me to explain to these players. Getting them to change up there and repair the scars and the damage that have been done over the years, and the mindset that's gone in. Now, I'm going to pull this up as an example, because Garnacho straight after the game, I think he went out there and he accidentally liked a post. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't him like throwing shade at Martinez. But just the mere fact that as soon as a game finishes and you've just lost 3-2, the immediate instinct is to go online, see what other people are saying, see what doing this. You have to get rid of that. You have to focus purely on what's happening inside those four walls in the changing room. You have to focus purely on what's happening. And I know that's easier said than done. And it's part of modern football that United have just not modernised with. But the mental fragility of these players, their inability to stay focused for 90 minutes and to manage games, it's easily the biggest task. And we just saw that in abundance against Nottingham Forest. And look, number 2 on this list is, of course, the individual mistakes that we saw in that game. And there won't be any sort of worse, I don't think, than that from Onana. Just that goal in itself was individual mistakes. Yoro passing it to Bruno, and Bruno using the outside of his boot to try and do a backwards shaped pass from the right back position, losing the ball. They bear down on goal. But Onana should be saving that. There is no excusing that individual mistake. Amorim was correct to point out after the game, goes, well, Onana has saved us at various points this season, and he has been one of our most consistent players. Remember that. But you just cannot build anything when you've got individual mistakes on the scale that we saw in that game against Forest. And it wasn't just one. And I've separated the whole set piece palaver because that is a point unto itself. But there is no building any sort of title challenging team when you're making mistakes of that magnitude in games. Now, of course, mistakes are going to be made in football, sure. But just that cannot happen. And number 3 on this list is, of course, set pieces. And this is just... It's not as if this is brand new post-Arsenal. This has existed for years. This situation here, was Martinez marking Milinkovic? Amorim after the game was saying how, look, you can have your biggest player marking the biggest defender, but then if an attacker stands in between him and he's blocked, then all of a sudden that's gone. Whatever United are doing, and he said, look, it's you can do man marking, you can do zonal marking. It doesn't matter. You need to improve. But United were just awful from the set pieces. And even when the ball got lumped into the box there, look, Lenny Yoro got caught on the back foot. The ball was over his head and his weight was on the wrong foot. And he's up against Chris Wood, who's already got a height advantage on him, physical advantage. But just that looping header from Chris Wood that went back across the box was almost in slow motion. I think Onana could have probably done better. I need to watch it again, but when I saw it immediately, I thought Onana could have done better. And Martinez could have done better. And they can go down into the individual mistakes. When your attackers are making individual mistakes, you miss opportunities, great. When your defense makes individual mistakes, you invariably concede goals, so they're more impactful. A defender's mistake is more damaging to a team than an attacker's mistake, and defenders aren't given that same sort of leeway that attackers are. But whether it's Onana not stopping that shot, or whether it's United defending from set pieces, or from a simple ball into the box, it was atrocious. And I don't get how United can still be so poor from defending set pieces and so bad from attacking ones. I'm sure you were the same as me. How infuriated were you when Bruno Fernandes kept hitting the first man? And it was Bruno taking it, then Mount took one, Rashford took one. The reason why Arsenal's set pieces were so dangerous, in my opinion, was because of how just on the money every single one of those deliveries were. And we're so far from that. It's awful. And something that I was a little bit frustrated about in that game is the fact that our subs were just kind of completely unable to change the tempo of the game. Look, who came on? De Ligt coming off for Maguire. I feel like that's kind of, it seems like his time is really being managed, as was Lenny Yoro. So both of those, I think, were probably more fitness related. Ugarte for Xerxes was an ability, and Mount coming on for Bruno was a way to bring Mount into a central position, and then Xerxes so he can link the midfield and the attack. And Rashford coming on in the 60th minute. Like, none of those players were able to impact that game. And United, even from the Bruno goal, that it was back to 3-2, it was just nothing really changed. And it was frustrating, really, for me, completely honest. And point 5 on my list is this, right? Honestly, what can Amorim do? He's speaking about how, of course, United have just lost 2 in a row. We've now got Victoria Pleasant, and then we've got City away next in the league. Tough game that's going to be. He isn't panicking. He's been in a similar situation at the start at Sporting, and he'll continue what he's doing at United. But something that really has worried me now is this Dan Ashworth decision. Out of nowhere. No one saw this coming. Because I thought that Ruben Amorim, finally, at Manchester United, we're going to have a manager who's actually got the structure above him. He doesn't really have to worry too much about what's going on above him and around the club because he's got people who will do that. But instead, we've sacked our sporting director after 5 months in charge, having chased him for 6 or 7 months. And now I'm worried about that. At some point, United won't be the crisis club. And it'll be nice. But that's 2 defeats in a row. And that Nottingham Forest one, I'm going to go back to that first point and say just the mentality and the fragility of these players, it is the biggest task. And there's only so much you can actually fix from within. You're going to have to replace some of these players. And Amorim is learning that as well. Which of these players do I think, in time, can I coach these problems out of them? And which ones will I have to replace? That's the most important lesson I suppose he's learning. And you can let me know what you think in the comments below. But good old United. Never a dull day.